A lot of times when they had something positive to say, they would have a however or a but. That however or but is basically say, this is what you need to do to go to that next level, that next 2 or that 3 level. So that's one of the things that when I looked through those findings, it was giving us stipulations of why do we go to the next step. That 4 seemed to be out there. Boy, I'd love to come back and get all the 4s. That would be phenomenal. But we're going to have to go over and above to get those 4s. One of the things I can say about the group, if you look on page 4 of the audit, one of the things it says about the process, it's a very rigorous process, and it is. There's not too many stones that were unturned. At least I don't know if there's anything they didn't look at, or it seems like. So when they went through, they had very high expectations. It's a different process than what it was 2 years ago. And to me, it's a more rigorous, it's a more difficult process than it should be to help our kids. That's what's about. Many of the positive findings require either a better monitoring system, just like the district. A lot of things that we suggested was, how are you monitoring this? How are you making sure that it happens? What's your better documentation? What observations are you going to do to the next level? Now, not to say every one of them was better documentation. There was a lot of things that, hey, we just weren't doing. I won't say a lot. There were some things that we weren't doing, and we'll talk about the priority improvements in just a little bit. One of the things that Lisa also talked about, and was in the audit, 2 years ago when they left, in the first audit, they said, these are 6 things, Mr. Fletcher, you need to address. And all 6 of what you see here, we've either addressed them partially or satisfactorily. Other schools also had their, this was not a 1, 2, 3 system. They basically said, you're on your way, Mr. Fletcher, you're on your way, Sean Clark High School staff, you're on your way with what you're doing. Or, if you keep what you're doing, then you're fine. But now, again, there's a lot of things as far as improvements. They also leave every single school with priority improvements. In other words, what are you going to do tomorrow? What do you need to do tomorrow to make sure that that child does not graduate from Sean Clark High School and read at an elementary level? Okay? What are you going to do to make sure that child graduates from your school and is able to do his multiplication tables? What are you going to do to make sure teachers are ready tomorrow for the future? If you look at the priority improvements, and again, I wanted to try to give you a frame of reference. Doss High School had 12 priority improvements. We had 3. Now, I'm not saying that it's something like it's a good comparison between the 2 schools, but it was something that made me feel pretty good. And at times I was looking through this document and saying, okay, these are things I want to see that makes me feel a little better. This is one of those things. And each of these indicators for us led back to, each of these improvements went back to a particular indicator of the 33. Okay. Now, these are the priority improvements for Sean Clark High School as they're written from the assessment. The very first thing was, how are you going to establish and implement a process to consistently and effectively supervise the instructional program? In other words, Mr. Fletcher, you go observe a teacher. How are you going to get that back to the teacher to say, how can you improve? Is there a process that you're going to do that? Are you going to have teachers to sign off that they got the recommendations? Are you working collaboratively with that teacher so they can say, Mr. Fletcher, I think this is what works. What do you think? Now, do we do that some? Yes, but we've still got a long way to go. I tell you, I really believe that the role of principal is moving away from the day-to-day manager to that instructional supervisor. If you're not an instructional supervisor at this point, you cannot function as a principal. You know, I was talking to Mr. Haney once, and he said this was his orientation. Here's the keys, Mr. Haney, good luck. Of course, he'd worked with Mr. Goebel for a couple of years, and Mr. Goebel gave him a lot of great suggestions, but he said that was primarily his orientation. Now, if you're going to step into a principal's role, you better know about instruction. You better know about more than just how to discipline kids. And don't get me wrong, it all goes together, but it's a very difficult process. The next thing was develop professional learning sessions that provide teachers with a repertoire of instructional strategies and best practices. Now, I told you that we have PLCs. We have, and those professional learning committees where teachers work together. But what are we doing to say, hey, I'm going to try something new in my class. This is how well it worked. Then I'm going to go over and share it with Ms. Price. Ms. Price, you're going to use it in your class, see how well it worked. Then how are we going to share it with everybody in the faculty? So more than just having those little, where you go into one classroom by yourself and you teach. And I'll be the first to admit, when I was a math teacher, I was one of those people, I went in my room, I didn't want anybody to bother me. I wanted to keep everything a secret. And I wanted to make sure my kids in my room had the absolute best test scores. And I wanted to laugh at the other math teachers when they weren't as high as mine.
Of course.
Exactly. But
it's competition.
It's a competition, but we've got to move away from that.
I know.
We've got to move away from that. Me first. Especially when and by my 4th year, it took some great teachers to work for me to realize that I didn't know it all, and I had to work with those people to improve. The next thing, as far as, and this is something that I guess kind of surprised me out of the findings. how do you implement a mentoring and coaching program for each teacher? We have KTIP, which is the teacher intern program. We also have and I'll talk more a little bit about this in just a second, but we have other things where if you're a new teacher to come into Shelton Clark, how do we make sure that you have the same beliefs we do? You understand how to take attendance, you understand how to do grades, other than the Kentucky internship program. Now the KTIP is for first-year teachers that's never taught before. But let's say you've taught in Johnson County for 4 years, and we do things a little different here in Martin County than Johnson, in some cases good, some cases bad. But how can we learn from those people what they're bringing in, and how can we teach them where we want them to go? So we're trying to share information about what type of mentoring, coaching program, not only for the new teachers, but how can we learn from those people too? And that's something that, without this audit, I wouldn't have realized. Because I thought, hey, we got KTIP, what else do we need? So in a lot of respects, this is something that's really helpful. Now, I hope that a question in every single person's mind is, Mr. Fletcher, if this is a priority need, what are you doing now? If they said this is a priority, what are you doing? Well, I'm glad you asked. So far, we're starting out, we're trying to address those priorities the next day. The leadership team, and the people I've talked about, and also Miss Dina James is on the leadership team. Is there anybody else I missed? I don't want to miss anybody. We have a big team, and we meet every other Monday at 9 o'clock right here at this table, and we throw things at each other, we share ideas, but we walk out with, this is where we are and where we need to go. But, Patricia Fitch and Michelle Harless, thank you. The leadership, J.D. Goble and Terry Quillen. The leadership team has discussed and added a teacher. We've talked about, we will be adding a teacher handbook. Okay? And as a matter of fact, Mr. Mayo has already sat down and said, this is the table of contents. So for example, Sergeant Rodriguez, when he first came in, this is just how we would take attendance. Well, this is also the discipline code. Well, this is also how you do standards-based grading. This is also how, in other words, we want everybody on the same page. A lot of times we take that for granted. I mean, when you walk into a new job, and you've been there, if you've been there for 15 years, and you just assume that everybody knows everything that you know for those 15 years. It's not the case. If you're a bus driver walking in, how many things would you like to have known now than what you do on day compared to day one? A lot. And it'd been nice if somebody would have sat down and said, okay, Pam, here's some good suggestions I've learned over the past 15 years. Well, we're going to try to do this. We are going to do the same thing with our teachers. That way we all start off day one on the same page. We also, Ms. Kirk, as far as the instructional program, we've also talked about, we've already scheduled instructional rounds. Actually, Ms. Kirk has scheduled instructional rounds training, whereas how are we going to go through and observe teachers, then how are we going to get the information back to them, what are the indicators of good teaching, and then what are some things that we can do to help improve. And that's something that's been scheduled already with Ms. Kirk. Mr. Fletcher, me, Mr. Goble and I are scheduled to go through the teacher evaluation, teacher effectiveness training this summer. That's something that all PLA schools have to go through, but that's something else that's going to help us to monitor our instructional program. The leadership team has also discussed, just like I said earlier, when you go into PLCs, did you try something, maybe a type of grouping, jigsaw? Whereas I put 4 people in one group, 4 people in another group, and you're teaching different things, and now I'm going to mix those kids and put them together, 2 from this group, 2 from this group, let them work together. Well, did that work? Are they learning more from the kids than they are from the teacher? And I'm not trying to say that in a bad light of teachers, but sometimes the best teacher in the room is not the teacher. Sometimes the best administrator in the building is not the principal. So you have to go through and get those ideas and share them. Once you implement it, once you try it, once you do the research, and I think Carol Chaffins, we've done a lot of that at Warfield, where you try something, then how do I get it out and share it to the other teachers? And how did it work for you? And then also, let's present that to others. Not in a way of saying bragging, not in a way of saying this is what we're doing, but how do we work together to improve? As a matter of fact, maybe I implement it, and Carol does a better job of implementing it. Maybe I can learn from Carol. The leadership teams also discuss strategies for PLC time. And here are the things that we already have in place to mentor teachers, and that is the KTIP program, which is the Teacher Intern Program. Teach for America, and I can't say enough good things about Teach for America. You get teachers out of that group that are well-trained, they're hardworking, they're go-getters, they're phenomenal. And they go to so many professional developments over the summer. And I joke with our teachers about they were basically dropped in a swamp in Mississippi and told to teach their way out. And along the way, they had a lot of help. And that's basically what happened in the summers. And then they come in with such wonderful ideas. Well, in that case, we need to learn from them. The MAP program is the alternate certification program. There's other alternate certification programs about, they're mentored by university personnel a lot of times. Now, there is one thing that's a little bit different about a leadership assessment at the building level versus the district level. They walk out with one page that says, principal, you can do the job, principal, you can't.